This is the Paranormal Search radio show and podcast. Discussing unexplainable events that shape our extraordinary world.
Three, two, one, fire!
The interviewers conducting this fantastic episode are none other than published author and president of Paranormal Search of Pennsylvania, Anthony Pugliese, and at times, when he's not stuffing his face with Oreo cookies, Jeremy Crowther.
All right, Denise Stoner is proud to be part of MUFON Experiencer Research Team, working under and is assistant to the Director of Abduction Research, Gwen Farrell, and Assistant Director, Dr. George Medic. She holds the following positions as Florida MUFON Field Investigator, Star Team Member, SSD, and is also Assistant State Director of Florida MUFON. Denise has co-authored and published her first book, The Alien Abduction Files, released in May of 2013, with Kathleen Martin, who we've had in the show recently. She's a niece of Betty and Barney Hill. Denise holds educational forums, both public and private, gatherings for abduction experiencers. Her involvement with the UFO field spans for more than 40 years. And we'll expand on a lot more of what she does. Denise, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Now, I understand that you have an educational background in business and psychology, and you're a certified hypnotist. You specialize in regressive hypnosis.
True. Yes, true. Actually, Kathleen Martin and I both took a course after we'd gone through the advanced hypnosis. We took a course in forensic hypnosis together.
Okay.
Which is a really interesting way of using hypnosis to get kind of more truthful matters out of somebody, because we don't suggest anything. We just let them go to the place they land, and then they talk to us. So we're not suggesting a thing, not offering up a choice of colors or what's in the room, nothing. So it seems to work very well.
Okay, that's great. And Kathleen's very nice lady, very sweet. We had a really good interview with her. And but as far as you, I understand that I was going to ask you how you got involved in this, but I think you're pretty much your retirement from the federal government. You spent 12 years with the U.S. Navy. You were doing background investigations for new recruits wanting to enter the nuclear power school, and that has allowed you to expand your work with UFO research and investigation. But did it start a lot sooner than that, though, Denise?
It did. I had my own experiences. I had the first one when I was 2.5 years old. And why do I remember it that far back? Because my mom was in the hospital giving birth to my sister, my only sibling. And so I was with my grandfather for the first time. Even though he lived with us, he did not take care of me full time. Hadn't done a full 24-hour or 48-hour shift with me before. So he had cooked dinner for us, and he was doing the dishes. I looked out the window, and I saw, as a child, a little girl, I thought I was looking at Humpty Dumpty.
Oh, my. Humpty.
I thought that who was outside our window, just floating there, this huge golden egg. And there was nothing but a field, and that's still the way it is. I had someone take a picture of my house, of that house, and there's still the field, nothing else there, and that's where I saw this object floating. And my grandfather came through after doing the dishes and took a look, because I said, what is Humpty Dumpty doing up in the sky? I could speak very well at that age. So he looked, and right to this day, I remember the fear on his face.
So he
was frightened.
This was a golden object, shaped like an egg?
It was shaped like an egg. I kept wondering why Humpty Dumpty had no face, because in my nursery rhyme book, he did have a face. And it was, I would say, a bright yellow gold.
Yeah, we had a previous guest a few months ago who claims to have seen the same thing outside of an airplane window.
Oh.
Very similar to what you just described.
How large do you think this golden object was?
Well, my grandfather closed the curtains and said it was time for us to go to bed. Took me upstairs, put me to bed, and my wallpaper in my bedroom had nursery rhyme characters all over it. So I started looking for Humpty Dumpty. I was lying there watching and trying to see if he was in the wallpaper, and pretty soon a little character, no taller than I was at the time, as a 2.5-year-old, came out of the wallpaper. He was dressed similar to a little monk. He had a hood. He had long sleeves, and he was holding a long object. I don't know if it was just a light or if it was a tool or the total purpose of it. But he came and looked at me. I looked underneath the hood of his kind of monk's robe, and he had these great, enormous eyes. They were just huge. He put his hand out, his free hand, and I just took it without even questioning it, without being afraid. And we walked out of my bedroom, down the hall, and he took that instrument that he had, that tool, touched the wallpaper, and we went right through it.
And how old were you when this happened?
I was 2.5.
2.5. Wow.
Yep.
And you recall that at 2.5? Wow, that's pretty intense.
I'd remember that.
Well, I guess it would be like, I guess it's something you never forget, huh? Yeah.
Well, what happened? What happened next when you went into the wallpaper? Do you remember anything after that?
Yes, I do remember. I was ended up in a room that was very smooth, metallic looking. There was a long bench that was built into that wall. There was lighting, but I don't know where it came from. It just kind of glowed. And I looked way down to the end of the bench, and I saw other children sitting there, all different ages.
Wow.
And I was guided down, and we sat down, and this is where my memory just kind of lost what happened. There was one of the little ETs standing there. He had some kind of paperwork or something, a clipboard type thing in his hand, and he was walking back and forth talking to us. And then after a while, I was brought back to my bed. I don't remember what happened or what was said to me.
Okay. And anyone else in your family ever experienced anything unusual like that as well? Because most experiencers go through a generational experiences together. Mothers, fathers, daughters, sons, grandparents, whatever.
Yes, actually, Kathy interviewed my mom. Mm-hmm. She was a family member that was left years ago, and so Kathy interviewed her, and she matched what I knew, and that was one night my mom and dad were in bed at the other end of the hall, and they had a fairly good-sized window they could see out from their bed, and they were just talking, and my dad was a bomber from World War II, and so he knew planes, and he knew how low they should be or shouldn't be. He saw two lights through the window, and they were coming directly at the window, dead silent. They made no noise, but he knew it wasn't right. And normally my dad would have gotten up, wakened my grandparents in the middle of the two bedrooms in the hall, and then my sister and I, and he would have gone downstairs and gotten us out of the house. He didn't. The next thing he recalled, and my mom, was waking up in the morning. And these two lights were so huge. He knew they were attached to something, and he was pretty sure they were going to hit the house.
So what about brothers and sisters? Did they have experiences as well?
I have one sister, and I observed her being lifted over the top of her crib, floated over the top, and taken. And my parents both thought that she was just one of those early escape artists. Mm-hmm. That she's going to get away no matter what, which she was, but I saw her floating. So my dad built the crib up with wood, so that it was pretty close to the ceiling, and there was no way she could climb it. He made it smooth on one side. She was floated right over the top.
I've heard stories like that, yeah, where people are found floating in the, and they're like practically banging against the ceiling and not even realizing they're like asleep or in a trance or something.
Right. Yeah. And she was, 2.5 years younger than I was. So she was pretty little, still in the crib. And later on, when I began to question her, she really was frightened. She did not remember anything other than she was taken somewhere and she would not discuss it. Not all her life. So she just kept it all inside herself. My mom had several things happen to her, starting when she was in school, and met this gal who was supposed to be the daughter of a doctor at Hartford Hospital. That's where I lived in Connecticut. And they were out on the street after school, and this girl looked really different. She had great big eyes, very thin, reddish hair. She was extremely intelligent, and she guided my mom into an abandoned building. And my mom went in there, and she met who she thinks were Greys. And then she was so terrified and frightened that she blocked all the rest out. She remembers nothing.
Wow. Do you think she might have implants in her body, or might still be experiencing things and maybe not remembering them?
She had been, but both my mom and my sister have passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that.
No, that's all right, yes. Both of them died of Alzheimer's.
Oh, okay.
And, but up until the year before my mom and my sister passed away, they died within 9 months of each other, which was kind of rough, losing those family members. They recalled certain things that had happened to them. I still couldn't get my sister to talk about it, but my mom did, especially after she met Kathy. She really liked her and trusted her.
Okay, and you have a hypnosis certification earned through the hypnosis and regression training at the Hypnotic Research Society by Dr. Ronald P. DeVasto. And you also have advanced forensic regression study through the National Guild of Hypnotists Incorporated by Donald J. Motton. When did you first get your hypnosis certificates, and had you tried at the time to maybe regressively hypnotize either any family members at the time, or were you not actually involved in that field at the time?
I wasn't involved in the field until, actually, I was working with someone, and it frightened my mom. I was working with a Dr. Bob Romack. That's the first gentleman that I began to learn hypnosis from, because I went to him for help with what had happened to me. So I went to him. He and I both worked. We found out we had a common interest in UFOs, ETs, the paranormal, and he hypnotized me. Okay. And we worked together to see what we would get. And when I started to describe the ETs and the things that had happened to me, we invited my mom and my sister to come to the office. He was a psychologist and then a good friend. So they came and they observed me describing some of these things under hypnosis, and they really became afraid. Some of my reactions caused them to jump up on the windowsill in the doctor's office like they could get away from it. But, there's no way you can do that. So they listened to me, and they had my book later on, but they didn't care to carry what they knew or felt any further. So, no, I never tried the hypnosis on them.
For listeners that aren't quite familiar with the process, are you able to recall any part of the hypnosis that you undergo?
Oh, yes. I recall everything. When Dr. Romek first started to work with me, and he worked until I could get into a pretty good trance state, then he offered me the option of either remembering it, not remembering it and listening to it later, or he would just tell me what he felt was pertinent. And I always chose to participate in what I learned. So I have used some of that methodology with people that I work with.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. You've done a lot of past life regression hypnosis. What are some of the strangest past lives stories that what are the strangest ones you have to tell us about?
I would say, and I'm just now working with other people on this. If they want to check between lives or a past life, I give them the option of not giving me my payment and working with me to see if they had any ET experiences in the life we visit. And I have found, especially in my case, that there were crafts involved in my last lifetime. And I have found that in a couple of other people, the same thing.
So also, not only are you finding out that there were experiencer issues and experiencer, I guess you could say experiences with UFOs and with aliens, but their past lives had also experienced the same thing. So it's like they're carrying it over into a new life over and over again.
Something very similar. In my case, I lived in a gold and silver mine town. Mm-hmm. I had moved there from the east to Colorado. And under hypnosis that Kathy did for me, I saw crafts coming up through the canyon and into that gold mining town, and we were all running. Why we didn't go into our homes, I want to explore this further. We didn't. We ran up over the mine tailings and into the mines and hid there.
Yeah, I'm into past lives. I mean, my mother was a tarot reader and did a lot of things like the crystal ball readings and stuff like that, and palm readings and past life regression. I can sometimes, if I am around somebody long enough, I can tell them what their past life, one of their past lives was anyway, who they were, what they were, sometimes based on their just friends, close people close to me.
Uh-huh. That's a pretty, what would you call it, a special gift or talent, or combination thereof. There are so many people that have no recall of a past life. I've been studying them, and we have some things that are in common with this life versus past life. For instance,
yes.
My middle name, and my parents had no idea that I had any recall of my past life, my last one. But my middle name is the same as what my first one was in that past life.
My middle name is Valentino, and It was really a Catholic name for Saint Valentine, and my mother liked Rudolph Valentino, but there was some connection there. But yeah, but lots of things like people who have certain hobbies, that collect certain things, people who look a certain way, dress a certain way. You can almost see that their past lives, they're getting bits and pieces of their past lives and introducing them into their present lives. Like
absolutely.
There was a girl I knew that the way she dressed, she'd wear these long dresses like Little House on the Prairie type stuff, and she would collect old pioneer tools, hoes and what are the plows and everything, and she'd hang them on her wall. And I'm thinking, I think this girl is just buying back what she owned in another life. I think she was maybe one of those pioneer women who helped to settle the West. She was a feisty girl too. And I can imagine her, the women back then were able to fight. They were able to settle the West. They were able to shoot. They were tough women. I mean,
yes.
And she seemed like she could have been one of those girls. And I kept get this vision of her in a field and sort of like standing next to a cabin and stuff like that. That just pops into my head. Another girl I saw her as a slave girl whose boyfriend was killed, and she was a slave owner. Married her and had kids with her, and she was feisty and sort of helped the abolitionists with the abolishment of slavery. I don't even know where some of this stuff comes from sometimes. I don't even know if it's real or it's just my imagination, since I am a writer. So, but it seems to just come, especially with certain people that just bring that out of me. It's like it runs in my head like a Nickelodeon. Have you ever experienced anything like that, or knew anybody that could do that?
I know a couple of people who are capable of giving an individual a basic idea of their past life, of what they had been doing and why. And sometimes, I don't know if you've noticed, it will cause that individual to recall more of what they lived. Have you found that out yourself?
Yes, and I've been told that I could have been right, and then they end up doing like ancestry research and stuff and finding out I'm somewhat right in some of those areas. And some of them are still doing research today. I have a friend named Elizabeth who's trying to find out. She's actually from a New England state, one of the New England states, but I keep seeing her as one time she was a slave girl, and she had a very difficult slave girl who was punished a lot, and even had someone killed because of her defiance. But and I think she did find something in her family tree where there was a girl like that in her family tree that acted that way and did get in some trouble. In fact, I think she was actually one of the primary protesters of the slave movement, one of the primary protesters in the slave movement at that time. Of Abraham Lincoln. Before slavery was completely abolished, she was one of the people that tried to help get that ball rolling.
Oh my goodness, it's absolutely fascinating. I can tell you what mine was. I'm a survivor of the Titanic.
Of what?
Of the Titanic.
Okay.
And I had been in Europe with a niece, and a family member became ill, and the niece decided not to come back with me, and the only booking I could get was on that ship.
Were you related to the unsinkable Molly Brown? Because you seem like a tough lady.
That would be me.
I kind of figured you might have been. That was a tough lady in history. They don't say much about her, but when you mention Titanic, they mention a lot about the unsinkable Molly Brown. She was pretty tough.
She was pretty tough. Although she wanted to be known for her work in women's rights rather than the Titanic, she worked very hard to get women voting, all of those types of things. That was her pursuit at the time. And I had a lot of fear in this lifetime, and I didn't know why. When I was 20 years old, I had a double stroke.
Oh.
They gave me 20% chance to live.
Mm.
And here I am. I think there was some healing done by an ET. However, I could not find out how Margaret Brown died. That was the piece of the puzzle that was missing. I had gone to her home in Denver. I had done all of these things, just trying to recall. And I finally found out, oh gosh, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, that she died alone in a hotel room of a stroke due to brain tumors.
Oh my God.
How old was she when she died?
Excuse me.
Oh, my goodness. I think she was in her 60s. I don't remember the exact date. For some reason, that wasn't real important.
Sure.
But yes, she did. So as soon as I found that out, I lost any fear that I had of dying of stroke in this lifetime.
Well, do you feel like, speaking of fears, because you may have been, you were the unsinkable Molly Brown on the Titanic, and that would have been a frightening experience with this boat sinking and you could possibly drown or freeze to death in the water. Have you ever had a fear of going to the water? Do you think we carry those past fears or the way we died into our current life and they become abnormal fears?
I know that you do, and I had Kathy hypnotize me and take me back to that night. Because I knew what I was wearing, what I had been doing. I was in an area of the ship in a club playing cards with 3 or 4 men. I was easier with guys than I was with women. They didn't know what to think of me. So I was playing cards, and I was wearing a dark dress. And did you ever see pictures of these? They're like a piece of fur you wear around your neck, and it has a fox, and the mouth clips to the tail of the fox.
Yes.
I was wearing that. I was wearing jet jewelry. I can remember all of that. Was I afraid of the water? No. I was angry at the person in the lifeboat, wanted him to go back. We had room to rescue some more, and he wouldn't do it. So I remember going almost all the way back.
Yeah.
I don't believe we could rescue anybody else. But what I did in this lifetime was have, and I think it had another something to do with another past life. I became a scuba diver, scuba instructor, and then a cave diver.
I think you may have been an Olympic swimmer, too, a long time ago.
Maybe, because I could swim in this lifetime before I could walk.
Yeah, and maybe I think you also probably were a saloon girl or something like that, or maybe a cowgirl or somebody tough who could handle a gun. Because they seem to carry that toughness from the very moment.
With guns.
Yeah.
I shot and won. It's called International Trap. You're shooting clay pigeons at night. They glow in the dark.
Yeah.
And I won awards in Colorado for that type of shooting.
Okay.
That's amazing.
That is amazing. See, that always amazed me because I never believed we just die and that's it. Or even, I think if Jesus Christ says we're going to have everlasting life, why wouldn't it, or why can't it mean we're going to have different lives throughout, every time? Our souls never die. So
no.
He puts us back on earth. There are a lot of people who had life regression hypnosis done and even claimed to be stuff like moles and snails and stuff like that before they were ever human beings.
Yeah, that amazes me. I don't know what I think about that. I haven't found anybody I can work with to see what happens under hypnosis. I don't believe that that's ever occurred with me. Maybe it's a belief system. I don't know. But I know I spent some time as a monk, a priest, in a monastery in California, in San Diego, years and years and years
ago.
That
I would never have thought. But I was thinking, is it possible you could have been an ET, or somebody in maybe your family members were ETs first, from other dimensions or worlds, and now you're human? And that might be why they're so interested in your spirit, your essence, so to speak. Why they may you became an experiencer?
This, I believe I was on, and I found 2 other people so far that had something to do with this. I was on a planet that, I call it the water planet.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't really water. It was a different kind of liquid. It was kind of like unsolidified jello. And I am exploring that because that was a world, it really couldn't exist in our perception of what a time and place and a planet could be. But this existed. I know it did.
Well, that's not too far from the truth, because not all life forms are carbon-based. There's lots of theories that some are petroleum-based. So this could have been a petroleum-based planet, the way you're describing it.
It could have been.
Yeah.
There was a tiny bit of surface. I've met 2 people who saw the little entities that lived on the surface in this tiny area and described them to me. I could not come to the surface all the way. I could stick my head above this liquid, and I don't know what I had to do with them, but I was working with them somehow. And I'm still exploring that. So maybe that's for another story.
But that's but all these things, I've always felt that all these things are connected. Everything is connected. Like there's an intricate fractal web of every paranormal experience or every paranormal story, and each one is connected to one another, no matter how you try to separate them. Everything. What are your views on? I know you don't probably explore this much or hear about it, or even. What are your views on cryptozoology and creatures like Bigfoot and Mothman and stuff like that? What do you feel about that?
I don't know if they all exist, but some I absolutely believe they exist. Where do they come from? I don't know. We have, the Sasquatch that have been seen as if they were running away from a UFO. Did they just step out of it? I'm not sure. Do we have, portals and vortexes and ways to slip through onto our plane? Yes. I have a photograph that, if you really look at it, you can see an entity unfolding in this shaft about to come onto a person's property. And they didn't come from any craft. They came from somewhere, another dimension, another plane, that we are not completely aware of yet.
So you think they are among us all the time?
I do.
I mean,
I do.
Like it's like a fabric that's intertwined, and they might somehow able to have this ability to step in and out.
Yes, I totally agree. I have a person I've been working with for years who, she's very good with a camera, a particular camera, and she has gone into her property at night and been able to capture these, and we talk about dust orbs, but this is actually a face manifesting. You can see the eyes, nose, mouth. And she stood and watched it and took a picture of it for me. We don't know, was that a spirit? I felt that it was. She wasn't sure. She thought it was something coming from another place and time to visit her. She's been working with me and for me with her camera to see what all she can capture. Okay. She got a little ET peeking out from behind a palm tree in that same piece of property. For several months, if she went out in the yard and her daughter took a picture of her, one of her pockets lit up as if there was something in it, something glowing. She had nothing in her pocket. But she was walking in the area where she was capturing some of these entities on camera.
Do you know what type of camera that she's using? Is it digital or is it film? Or does it matter?
I think it was digital, but I can get the exact ones, for you if you'd like.
Yeah. Well, I was just curious.
Yeah.
Do you still have those? Do you have any of those pictures?
I do. I can send you the one of the little face.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. That would be great.
So awesome.
That would be really awesome. Yeah.
Okay, I would be glad to do that, and I know she wouldn't mind.
Hey, listen.
And I have actually seen a spirit manifest the same way that this little face was about to do. It never fully formed, but there's no doubt that you're looking at the face, the nose, the little mouth, and it looks kind of like a wrinkled old man. There's no hair. But she caught it just right. I'll send it to you if you'd like.
Okay, that would be great. Yeah, I'd like to see that.
All right.
Sometimes
All right,
I've seen pictures of beings coming out of portals, but it's almost as if the background behind the figure is very colorful and almost distorts the color in the picture, and the being itself seems distorted as well. Is that something similar to what you have seen?
Yes, absolutely. I have seen everything is slightly distorted. The doctor that I worked with in Colorado, Dr. Romack, we belonged to a group that we actually formed of psychics and people that wanted to work with the paranormal, and we would go out to the homes of individuals who were having ET experiences, seeing UFOs, and then in came the spirits. And when you walked into their home, they had an upper story with a shelf that overlooked the foyer, a balcony kind of thing. And if you walked in and stood there too long, 3 spirits that had moved in, uninvited, would knock anything off that shelf into the foyer.
Oh.
So we witnessed that, and we were able to see the little figures. They looked human. So I think they were spirits, different sizes, and they were, as you described, just kind of semi-formed, and they looked like little old men.
Could they have been ETs in some kind of, extraterrestrials in some kind of, disguise?
No, I don't think so.
No?
Not in this case. No, I think there was spirit involvement, and that's what's happening to a lot of people who report to us. I'll get a phone call, and someone will say, I've had an experience with a UFO, but I've got somebody here that I recognize as an aunt that passed away, or a grandfather. So this is happening more and more, and either they were afraid to speak up years ago, or it's just something new that's happening. There's been a break in the sheets somewhere, so that people can get through after they've passed away.
Oh, that's pretty wild stuff. What other strange stories would you like to share with us before we wrap it up today?
Well, I don't know if I'd call it strange, but it's interesting. When my grandfather passed away, I was very, very close to him. And he was just very family-oriented. So after he passed away, and we all missed him terribly, especially me, he was more of a dad to me than my own dad because he had to work and go to school. My grandfather was there. So we were sitting in the living room one day, and after he was gone, he walked right through the front door, walked up to the table in front of us, the coffee table, this was my mom and I, and tossed his hat on the table and then disappeared.
Oh my goodness.
My God. That's crazy. Yeah, that sounds like some of the weird stuff that used to happen where I was raised. My mom had a way of attracting things sometimes that would do strange things in the house. Sometimes it wouldn't be till hours later.
Well, some people just invite that. They're open, and your mom, I bet, wasn't afraid at all, was she?
No. I mean, sometimes to the point where I wanted to kill her because doors would open and she'd say, come on in. It's just, and I'm like, my eyes would get really big and says, Mom, what are you doing? What if that's a demonic spirit or something? Oh, don't be so scared. It's nothing. She would do stuff like that, and I'd be like, she would take a candle and put it on top of the refrigerator and say, oh, God, give me a sign or something like that. Or she'd say something, and the candle would slowly start to shrink and go out. So she said, "Mom, you're blowing that out." And she walked away from it and put it on top of the fridge. She was too far away to blow it out. And she would do it over and over again, 5 or 6 times.
Why do you think your mom was comfortable with this? Like what was she? What did your mother know that?
My mother claims that my mother was born a fraternal twin, and she claims that she was born. She had some kind of a membrane over her face, and that's supposed to be the sign of
veil.
Yes, a veil over her face, and it was removed when she was born. She also says that she communicated at the age of 4. She was communicating with a woman that would come into her bedroom. Turned out that woman was her great-grandmother who died years before she was born.
Oh, boy.
Now, her mother claimed that there was something wrong with her. They took her to a doctor. They said, "You're crazy," stuff like that. So she went through a lot of ridicule all her life for some of the talents that she had.
Oh, you do? It's terrible. If you've got that in your family and others that are born have that natural gift, they're still making fun of it. They really are. My grandmother was able to talk about where she thought she was going when she passed away. And I said to her, "If you're all right, if you can let us know, would you do that?" And both my grandparents were from Scotland, so they had high tea.
Yeah.
Every afternoon at 3 o'clock, high tea was served. And after she passed away, my mom and I were writing letters to her friends in Scotland to let them know she was gone. And we were the only ones in the home. And before you knew it, my tea kettle turned on the stove and started whistling.
Really?
I turned it off 3 times, and it was turned right back on until I realized it was 3 o'clock, and she wanted us to stop what we were doing. She was letting us know she was all right, I think. That's just my opinion. And she wanted us to have tea.
Wow. Yeah, I asked. When my mother passed away in 2013, and we knew she was going to die, and I asked her, I said, "Mom, if you pass away, let us know how things are going. Come back and let us know if you're okay," because I understand that people have done that people have seen spirits. One of my great aunts claims to see my great-great-grandfather, who came to her standing in a doorway saying, "Everything is fine." This was like months after he died. "I'm okay. Everything's fine." He disappeared, scared the bejesus out of her, of course. But, I thought maybe, I've never seen, no one ever came back to me and told me they were fine or anything. But, it's crazy how we think about life and life, after death and so forth. And,
Do you find, Denise, that it's easier these days to talk about these things as opposed to before when you're first having these experiences and doing your own investigations into it? Seems like the conversation is now available. Maybe in the past 10 years, things have changed quite a bit.
They have. I'm finding that people are feeling free now to discuss their ET experience and then to just toss in the ring, well, I think I've got visitors from the spirit world also. And we find that these individuals that have been taken or experiencers, including myself, have had most likely a near-death experience, which I did. Others do too. And somehow this all ties in. What they see, what they go through, how they choose this lifetime. It's just so fascinating.
Do people have similar experiences when they have these near-death experiences, like such as imagery and things like that?
They do. It's similar in a way. Mine happened when I was being wheeled into the operating room, and I was wide awake. And I decided that this is how I found you can connect your conscious and subconscious, and it's the subconscious you decide I'm not staying anymore. And I wanted out, and I'm not doing this. You can have that body, take it away. And the minute I thought that, I was out. I saw the tunnel. I headed for that tunnel. I was told I could not enter the tunnel. I had to go back, and I was pushed back into my body. And I remember entering through my mouth. I was fighting and thrashing and kicking, but trying to avoid going back. The nurse was trying to stop me, and they had been trying to wake me up, and I wouldn't wake up. And then when I did, I was fighting it. But I had a voice tell me, you have one more thing to do before you can come.
Oh, so
I still don't know what that is. Am I doing it?
How did you leave your body?
I lifted straight out, and I realized I was floating above my body.
The reason I asked is because many people who had past life experiences claim they come out feet first. You come into the world head first, but you leave it feet first, like you're being pulled out, like someone grabs your feet and pulls you out, or like you're getting out of bed. Just walk right out of your body. Like, did that happen to you too?
Yeah, I would describe it that way. When I re-entered my body, I went in head first.
And you said you went through the mouth. I've heard that before too.
Through the mouth.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah, isn't it all fascinating? I just, I've got more I want to do. Kathy and I do some research together. We've been friends for about 12 years now, and we're interested in looking for the answers to some of these things. Isn't she a wonderful person?
Oh, she's magnificent. Yeah, and so are you. Maybe one day we'll interview both of you together.
We've done that when we wrote our book. We're very good together to talk to. So yeah, I'm sure she would be willing.
Oh, she's very pleasant. She's got one heck of a sense of humor.
Yes.
Yeah, we were talking about some of her experiences that her Aunt Betty had on the ship, and one in particular had to do with teeth, and she kind of thought that was kind of amusing.
Uh-huh.
I think you know what I'm talking about. I discussed it in the other show, which is why I'm not bringing it up in this one, but it had to do with Betty and Barty and the examiner, and remember that I said
absolutely about the teeth
and not the other guy, the leader, and they were talking about why Barney's teeth came out, but hers didn't. Betty's teeth didn't come out.
That's right.
And Kathleen just started laughing really hard. She thought it was so funny. I said, I thought that was funny the first time I heard it, because even in such people treat abductions sometimes as such horrifying experiences, but maybe not all of them are horrifying. They're almost kind of like humorous in some ways.
Yes.
And from what I understand, some of those aliens were wearing human clothing, like walking around with caps and sneakers on, and what looked to be track suits or gym suits or something. And I'm trying to picture this. This is aliens we're talking about, maybe to make us feel more comfortable about being on the ship. I don't know, but a lot of that stuff is humorous when you think about it. Some of the things that are said to the abductees or the experiencers, whatever they want to call them these days. But yeah, she was very pleasant and had a very very keen sense of humor on that. And we plan to have both of you on the show again.
Oh, that would be nice. Yeah, we enjoy doing that. And we're really just kind of natural as far as being friends and able to exchange the conversation so that it's not all unbalanced and headed in the wrong direction. But, we did over 100 radio shows together when our book was written.
Yeah, holy cow.
100 together. Yeah, you do. That. Yeah, I do. I see that in your... in your resume here, that you've done quite a bit of these shows. Have you ever worked? Have you worked with any of the top people in the field at all, other than Kathleen?
Oh, Stanton was a good friend of mine.
Stanton,
Friedman.
Kathleen.
I talked to Peter Robbins. You'd have to look him up. He's well known in the UK.
Okay.
I've met Nick Pope.
Nick, yeah.
Yes, Travis Walton is a friend of mine.
Cool.
Quite a few.
Kathleen, other than your email address...
Denise.
I'm sorry, Denise. Other than your email address, she must be thinking of us. If I mention. She's probably wondering how the interview's going. That's probably mentioning her name. Other than your email, dmstoner1@gmail.com. Tell our listeners how else you could be reached, and where we can find some of your other books if you have any new ones out, other than the one from 2013, the alien abduction files.
Well, if you look it up, I write about once a quarter for a magazine called JAR. And it's kind of a lengthy article each time I write on all different ET topics. I have written for a couple of others. I wrote a chapter in Kathy's last book called Contact and What Do You Do? You know, what can you do if you are abducted? So one of the chapters in there on the paranormal is by me. So I'm writing. I just don't have a whole book coming out right now. I'm too busy with research for the time being, but you reach me by that email.
Okay.
I had a website. It was hacked.
Oh, I see.
And so I just have not set it back up, but definitely send me an email. I do respond.
Okay. I wonder why you didn't have your website listed here. So you said it was hacked, and that's why you don't have one right now. That's okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's thanks for telling us that, because I was going to try and look one up, but it was very nice, very pleasant having you on the show.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
Denise. This was a blast. It was a really good interview.
Yeah, I'd like to hear more of your story. I mean, there's never enough time to really tell all the stories there is to tell, is there? But I'm sure you have many
there's
more
not.
interesting things to talk about, and that goes for every guest we've had so far.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
It's a lifetime, and there are many, and I appreciate you having me so much. I've enjoyed it.
So have I. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us this episode. If you would like to attend our monthly meetings, you may do so by visiting the Lower Paxton Municipal Building in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. We meet the second Wednesday of every month between the hours of 7 and 9 p.m. Please visit our Facebook page, that is Paranormal Search of Pennsylvania. There you will find links to our YouTube channel and website.